I got biscotti and froze. Big boss like I'm Rose. Ice and Wendy's, that's a domain. Lil' baddie and she homemade. Rep my city at the home game. Up and down and go both ways. And the sprinter is taking them both lanes. Hop in, we zooming, the package be booming. Yeah, we got it, we got it, got it. She picky and choosing in love with the moment. Yeah, we got it, we got it, got it. They cannot do what we doing. You see how we moving, we got it, we got it, got it. Mess with the squad, you try to. Go against us, I highly doubt it. All of my bros, we got it, got it. They know for sure, we got it, got it. Been on the road, we got it, got it. We cannot go without it, out it. Mess with the squad, you try to. Go against us, I highly doubt it. Been on the road, we got it, got it. We cannot go without it, out it. I be on exotic, can't mess with the toxic. Curvy little body be all on me. Keeping it spicy, you know that I got it. If she need it, just call on me. Run up a tab, we running it back. Lil' mama, yeah, you can ball on me. Ride with me, we go from. Get inside, yeah, go zone. Hop in, we zooming, the package be booming. Yeah, we got it, we got it, got it. She picky and choosing in love with the moment. Yeah, we got it, we got it, got it. They cannot do what we doing. You see how we moving, we got it, we got it, got it. Mess with the squad, you try to. Go against us, I highly doubt it. All of my bros, we got it, got it. They know for sure, we got it, got it. Been on the road, we got it, got it. We cannot go without it, out it. Mess with the squad, you try to. Go against us, I highly doubt it. Been on the road, we got it, got it. We cannot go without it, out it.
I dare them to try me, they know that I got it. I make a deposit, they all callin'. 3 little baddies, they all got a fatty. I call them a cabbie, they all horny. We never slack when we on the track. I keep me a pack like Bob Marley. Just give me the loot, cause we on pursuit. Dressed in a suit like Steve Harvey. It's really just me and my bros, hey. People be hating, ain't throwing shade. Don't give them the time, say no names. Cause we bout our money, play no games. Stack up our bread like whole grains. Still indie like no name. Swag and splash, that's our old name. ISO, we in our own lane.
Hop in, we zooming, the package be booming. Yeah, we got it, we got it, got it. She picky and choosing in love with the moment.
it, yeah, we got it, got it. They cannot do what we doing, you see how we moving, we got it, got it. Mess with the scar, you try to go against us, I highly doubt it. All of my bros, we got it. They know for sure, we got it. Been on the road, we got it. We cannot go without it. Mess with the squad, you try to go against us, I highly doubt it. Been on the road, we got it. We cannot go without it.
It's electric when you kiss me. Never felt this way before. We're magnetic, wanna stay here, closer than close. Up in the clouds, I can see the whole world now. Breathtaking world.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ADAC SimRacing Expo, or maybe more specifically, the road to the SimRacing Expo. I'm Yusuf Bin Sahel, joined by Alex Goldschmidt. And Alex, we saw some fantastic racing 2 weeks ago in Spa-Francorchamps, but now we are making our way to Imola to see the next 6 drivers who will be making their way to the Nürburgring in in around a month's time.
Good evening, Yusuf. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, we've already had 6 drivers qualify for what's going to be happening the 17th to the 19th of September at the ADAC SimRacing Expo at the Nürburgring. Finally makes its return after a couple of years away, which is really looking forward to what's going to be happening. So, yeah, I mean, effectively, yeah, you can see that this is a working household. It is part and parcel of what we're doing at this particular moment in time. But yeah, 12 different nations represented tonight, 8 different brands, and 32 drivers covered by 1.3 seconds. Can be a cracking one at Imola.
To be honest, Alex, I didn't know that the V8s were going to be back out on track tonight.
Your guess was as good as mine, to be completely honest with you. But the good thing is we've got some household names on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform.
Yep.
And realistically, I think we're going to be in for even more of a contest tonight than we had at Spa-Francorchamps back on the 5th of August. And what's more, it's a €10,000 prize fund, 5,000 to the winner at the Nürburgring. 12 drivers will go into battle. It's a dog-eat-dog process. And to be honest with you, where some of the drivers missed out of the cutoff by, just under a tenth of a second, that just shows how competitive it is. Half a second covered the top 17. That just speaks volumes.
Yeah, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about the drivers who have qualified for the Imola race, where they will be starting the race in about 10 minutes or so. But let's kind of wind back the clock. So let's 2 weeks back to that race at Spa-Francorchamps, where we had our 6 drivers making it through, which was James Baldwin, Giorgio Simonini, Marek Shinze, Kevin Ciclari, Nikodem Wisniewski, and Jaroslav Honzik. Those were your top 6 making it through. But one of the big names who didn't make it through was George Boothby. He started on the front row of the grid, and we saw incident on the opening lap. This isn't a long race. This isn't your standard kind of endurance race. It's an hour long. You make that mistake or you get caught out by something, it's practically your race over.
Yeah, we did see that. Obviously, the contact between Unicorns of Love's very own Bastian Richter, left front of the Aston Martin, collecting the right rear of George Boothby. This time is with Racing Line Motorsport. And one of the things was Boothby qualified second at Spa-Francorchamps, but he is way down in the mid-pack. It's going to be a different battle for the Brits. We've got 12 different nations. We've got Germany being represented, but the biggest bone of contention for what happened last time, James Baldwin. I spoke to him in the post-race interview. Firstly, commented on my welcome pronunciation of Assetto Corsa Competizione. But then you had the nation represented. Funnily enough, the biggest nation represented. You've got Kevin Ciclari and Giorgio Simonini, 2 household names in this platform. James Baldwin, world's fastest gamer. Nikodem Wisniewski, one of the many drivers from Williams Esports. Jaroslav Honzik running with Yaz Heat. Now, looking at it from this perspective, okay, we've got 2 drivers, I believe, that have actually qualified from Yaz Heat. James Baldwin, Jaroslav Honzik. The third
Yeah.
one that hasn't been able to qualify for that is going to be racing tonight and is trying to actually raced in the previous race at Spa, Eamon Murphy.
Yep.
So Eamon's hoping to make it from all three drivers from Yas Heat to make it through into the grand finale at the Nürburgring. It's going to be a tall order. I mean, when you look at it, Dennis Schoeninger leading the cutoff on this one. And what's more, it's R8G Esports leading the way, but then you've also got Niklas Huben in there, Tobias Pfeffer, the 16-year-old German driver running in the number 324 Audi, was literally less than half a second behind in terms of it. So you can tell. And plus also, here at Imola, it seems to be an Ingolstadt whitewash of the top three. Bentley factoring in there. Andrea Capoccia, one of the more, there's a lot of drivers in this field. An ages range from 16 all the way until the early 30s. That just shows the depth and breadth of experience, but also young chargers that we've got in this field. And that's going to be a key telling point. But Imola is a track that is known to be feared in GT3 action.
And when we talk about that, or the Imola circuit ahead of us, 18 corners, used to be on the F1 calendar, took a little breakaway for about 15 years, I want to say, before making its return last year. And it's weird, isn't it? Because it's not your standard kind of F1 style circuit. It's not as wide, it's not as fast, I want to say, in that regard. But you do have some very nice chicanes, and I think when we compare it to where we were 2 weeks ago, Spa-Francorchamps, it feels to me, at the very least, like there are a lot less overtaking opportunities.
Yes, but there's more opportunities for having a lot of action here. Heading into places such as Tamburello. Used to be a flat sweeping left-hander. Obviously, the early 90s saw, mid-90s saw a very big, significant change. Obviously, accidents for Gerhard Berger and the late three-time Formula One world champion Ayrton Senna de Silva, amongst other people that have been, so to speak, unfortunately, the words in the wall. Roland Ratzenberger lost his life at the circuit that very same weekend, back in May of 1994. But there's a lot of overtaking places. I mean, who can forget the side-by-side action between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton earlier on this year, where Verstappen didn't give any quarter. Hamilton ended up with an end, part of his front wing end plate coming off. Villeneuve, Torza, Piratella, Acqua Minerale. The most fearsome double right on this corner. You're braking from fourth gear at about 190 kilometers an hour from fourth gear down to you're dropping nearly 100 kph down into second. You've then got an uphill climb, which means you've really got to put the power down correctly. A variante alta, another one where you can actually get it wrong. A first, second gear chicane taken at about 100 kph. Then you've got Rivazza, and that's one of the biggest overtaking possibilities that you can use. You can carry the momentum through into Rivazza, but then you've also got the first left-hander. You can actually go into that quite aggressive. You do the Danny Rick, lick the stamp and send it and hope it pays off and get through. Then you can also wait, bide your time, get through into the next left-hander at Rivazza and use the very, very long start-finish straight. These drivers are going to be pushing over 260 Ks going into the braking zone for Tamburello. And it's a triple apex. So you've got to be on the brakes really, really well. You've got to make sure you give that opportunity to that car that you've got. You don't want to turn in too early. You don't want to turn in too late. You don't want to outbrake yourself. Tamburello is where you can really, really get your foothold in, or it can completely go wrong.
And the other thing I find about the Imola circuit is it is very technical. We're talking about 3 chicanes on the track. They're not very fast. The Villeneuve chicane is probably the fastest of all 3, and you can carry a reasonable amount of speed through it. But here at Imola, especially when you compare it to some other tracks on the calendar, you do need to know how to use up as much of the curb as possible. Keep the minimum speed as high as possible, because if it drops down, you're trying to get the power on in these GT cars, which, don't get me wrong, the GT cars are fast, but, they still take their time to get up to speed, especially if you're coming out of, something like the Tamburello chicane or the Variante Alta at the top end of the circuit before making your way down towards Rivazza. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the track, as well as mentioning the drivers in a moment, because just to remind everyone of what's at stake, we had 6 drivers qualifying for the main event in the Nürburgring 2 weeks ago. We're going to have another 6 qualifying tonight from Imola, and the main event will be on the 18th of September. That will be live from the Nürburgring, all 12 drivers competing under the same roof, as it were. And Alex, we do have some exciting news to drop. But first, we're going to be jumping on into a short commercial break. When we return, we will be having our exciting news being dropped. All of the drivers who will be competing here tonight at Imola, as well as the race itself. So do stay tuned.
Let's go!
Folks, and thanks for staying tuned. We're getting ever closer to our race at Imola, our second qualifying race for the road to the ADAC SimRacing Expo. I'm still Yusuf Bin Sale, joined by Alex Goldschmidt. Now, before we went into break, Alex, we said that there was some exciting news, and now we can probably say it's regarding one of, well, let's say the world's leading sim racing wheel manufacturers.
Yes, well, if anyone might have seen the Sim Expo community trophy that was won by Germany's Tom Heyer, the funny thing is that Tom has received a Fanatec CSL DD2. So we can officially announce that Fanatec will be at the Sim Racing Expo between the 17th and the 19th of September at the Nürburgring. So really big news, and a big thank you to Fanatec for jumping on board once again. And from what I understand, there is a lot more exciting developments, but we have to bring some excitement of our own here on the ADAC Road to Sim Racing Expo here. And obviously, for those watching on the respective streams, a big thank you to Sim Racing Unlimited. You might have seen Danny Gusa, who was actually one of the commentators for the Community Trophy this past week. Round one of it took place at Silverstone. There are some prize monies up for grabs at the Nürburgring. But yeah, I mean, looking at who we've got, as I said earlier, 1.3 seconds covering the top 32 before the cutoff was made. 12 different nations. So Germany, Italy, Russia, Czech Republic, the United Kingdom, Hungary, Netherlands, Iran, Ireland, Switzerland, Poland, and France. We've got 8 of the premier brands associated with GT3 racing, and also this platform on Assetto Corsa Competizione, Audi, Mercedes, Bentley, BMW, McLaren, Ferrari, Porsche, and Aston Martin. Just looking at the prizes, I mean, we've got a 10,000 euro prize fund for the professional trophy. So James Baldwin, Giorgio Simonini, Marek Shins, Kevin Ciclari, Nikodem Wisniewski, and Jaroslav Honzik, Jardier have all qualified. And who is going to end up being the other 6? I mean, looking at the list that I've got here, and for those wondering, yes, I have written a lot of notes. I had to do this just to be on the safe side. You know what I'm like, Yusuf, with attentions to detail.
Yep.
I think the youngest driver that we've got is 16. The oldest driver looks to be around about in their early 30s, which just goes to show how many different drivers we have. But as we alluded to before the commercial break, Dennis Schoninger and Tobias Pfeffer, it is an all-German front row. Then you add another German driver into that mix, Rutronic E-Racing's Niklas Huben. Now, I've mentioned this driver before in other broadcasts that I've commentated on. Now, Niklas Huben, for those that might know of the SimGrid, we have to say also all the very best of luck to the SimGrid's founder, Dave Perel, who is competing in the GTE AM class at the 24 Hours of Le Mans this week. So, Dave, all the very, very best of luck for us here at the ADAC SimRacing Expo team. Niklas Huben raced against Tobias Grönwald and George Boothby. I mentioned this in the previous broadcast for those that are astute of you out there that might have noticed. Niklas Huben actually beat Tobias Grönwald and George Boothby on the final lap of the race, and it was at this very circuit. So for me, straight away, Niklas Huben stands out like a sore thumb. Boothby is actually a bit further down the order. Now, Boothby is down behind Eamon Murphy, and Boothby did a 1 minute 40.380. Amir Hosseini has been a little bit vocal on Twitter, I've noticed, about Success Ballast, or BOP more specifically, but they're both in the McLaren 720S GT3. There have been some patches there have been some patch updates to Assetto Corsa Competizione in between the two races. But to be honest with you, Imola is going to suit a car that is mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, and have bags full of torque. Now we've got a few McLarens on the grid. We haven't got that many Ferraris, if I'm honest with you. I think the highest place one, I think there's only one actually. Let's just have a look here, because Kamil Pawlowski, who is in the number 14 Mercedes GT3 Evo, was actually quicker than Danilo Santoro in the 313 Ferrari. As we now, there we go. We've got a little bit of free practice underway. There's George Boothby, number 41, Racing Line Motorsport. Now, Santoro is actually qualified behind Amir Hosseini. So the Ferrari, you would think, would be the go-to vehicle on this circuit. But it looks like the Audi, with its nice combination of good power delivery, it's a 5.2 litre, naturally aspirated V10 engine, pushing at around about 570 brake horsepower, about 550 newton meters of torque. It's naturally aspirated. So when you look at it from this perspective, you look at Dominic Blazek from Triton Racing in the hunt for Season 2 of the Single VCO World Cup, which actually has its penultimate round this week, qualifying tomorrow night for the Coach Dave Academy 12 Hours of Kyalami. There I've just seen one of the two BMW Team G2 esports cars that have qualified, and Arthur Cameron is one of them. Gregor Schill, who qualified a little bit further down the order. He's qualified at the bottom part of the top 15. There is 72 entry. Normally they one with Norris. He's so busy he wasn't able to settle that time. He was actually one of the drivers down to do this event, but the last driver who was in the first race and actually finished 10th, if memory serves me correctly, Haupt Racing Team Schindler's Ben Hitz in Mercedes number 24. And there is Ben Hitz. You can see just on this free practice session, with about 7.5 minutes to go, Yusuf, they're covered by just over 1.6 seconds. And the top 14 rounded out by everyone's favourite Iranian, Amir Hosseini, 0.63 of a second between the top 14. Luke Whitehead, not that far adrift in 15th either.
And you mentioned some of the different cars that we were seeing out on track, or we've seen drivers set their qualifying times for this event with. If we cast our minds back to Spa, there were only 4 different manufacturers on circuit. You had the Audis, you had the McLarens, those were the 2 main ones, and then alongside those you had the Mercedes and the Aston Martins as well. Didn't have a single Porsche. Now we've got a few Porsches out on track. We have a few BMWs as well, albeit those BMWs are because G2 Esports are racing and G2 have their partnership with BMW, so are somewhat compelled to drive with the BMW. But we've also got a few Bentleys out on a track, you know, Triton Racing, Dominic Ablaya with that Bentley. And actually another interesting thing, which is something that I didn't think I would say, is every single one of the John Alesi eSport drivers are racing in a different car. You've got one of them in a Mercedes, one of them in a Ferrari, and one of them in a Bentley.
You couldn't have picked 3 different manufacturers at best, even if you tried there. And you said about the other one is actually Russia's Ivan Shemetinsky. Shemetinsky just, I think was just recently turned 21, but the thing is that Shemetinsky, when I've commentated on that young man on multiple occasions, managed to blind both myself and Lewis McGlade's eyes with the most high-vis Camaro GT4 a little while ago on Alton Park, and it was like the highlighted Neapolitan ice cream that Chevrolet and Reiter Engineering had a love child with. Pardon the pun there, but it was so bright. I think both our retinas were literally done in. There's Andrea Capoccia, the 149 Audi from GTWR R8G Academy. Now, the funny thing is, looks to be a little bit of bragging rights here, because not only do you have R8G Esports, but you also have the GTWR R8G Academy, who who runs R8G? Well, none other than IndyCar star who just recently got on the podium at Indianapolis, Romain Grosjean. The academy is to help bring people in, and then the esports team is to really help push people forward. But then when you look at who is in GTWR R8G Academy, you know, Giorgio Simonini is like is not so much the figurehead, but the person that is really helping to push things forward. And you've got some great drivers in this. We see the Audi now make its way through into Piratella and down into Acqua Minerale. And you can just see that Audi really does look poised and looks like it's going to be not a handful, it's going to be the right car in the right hands. And Capoccia currently sitting in P5 in the session at the moment. Tobias Pfeffer, who was second in the qualifying on the leaderboard running up into this. But there's a big surprise here. Maxime Batifoulier, who is in the Arnage competition Bentley. Now there are two Bentleys in the top 6, and there's Niklas Huben from Vitronic E-Racing running at the top 3. Very close between the top 3. And now looking, if Pfeffer had actually set that lap time, that would have put him between Blaža and Capoccia through the qualifying stages for this, because we had an open leaderboard which ran for a week leading up into this event, and then they closed things off, I think, within the last 48 hours. And good to see that Ben Hitz running the BWC livery, as we've seen, Halp Racing Team running in that sort of, well, that's actually Luca Motorsport, if I remember correctly, in DTM at the moment. Danny Hulkadea, I know, is having more surgeries again. I mean, I remember when he broke his clavicle and managed to get back in for the season. But Danny's a keen sim racer, does a lot of work, obviously with the SRE GT Challenge, but they also have their esports side of things. But they use this. Lars Kisser, one of the other drivers from Unicorns of Love. Lars Kisser actually qualified outside of the top 10, but goes P6 on a 1 minute 40.398. And that is effectively just over a 10th off of the lap time that Kisser actually did in the leaderboard qualifying for this event. So we'll have about the best part of about well over 30 drivers, and it is going to be, I think the words carnage into Tamburello could be a big understatement tonight here, Yusuf.
Might very well be. And when we speak about carnage, obviously that involves drivers. So I think this is a perfect chance to throw to the 31 drivers that will be racing with us. And I'm not going to try to blitz through them as quickly as I can. I'm going to try to actually pronounce the majority of the names. Whenever I get to a difficult one, I'll just throw over to Alex because he's very good.
He always does. He always does this to me normally anyway. So
unless it's an Italian name, right?
Hey, you better nail it, mate, because you've got family over in these parts.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be careful. They'll be coming for my blood otherwise. So, the fastest time in the open leaderboard went to Dennis Schoeniger with a 1:39.8 for R8G Esports. Then he was followed by Tobias Pfeffer in the other R8G Esports car, 39.924, just 400, separating those two. Then second row of the grid will be Niklas Huben and Dominic Blaya. Third row, Andrea Capoccia and Maxime Batifoulier.
Batifoulier.
I got close, right?
I have to give credit where credit is due. Chapeau, as they say in France.
I don't know what that means. But fourth row of the grid.
I doff my hat to you, sir. That's what it means.
Ah, okay. I didn't realise you were wearing a hat, Alex. But nice.
I'm not. No, I've just got my headphones on, but I've got to figure out.
I don't know where we're going with this. This is where
we're off on a tangent again already.
We're off on a tangent. So, to appropriately say, let's steer our way back onto the curve. And that is the fourth row of the grid, which is Mark Balzer and Arthur Camara in the first of the BMW G2 Esports car. And then the top 10 is rounded out by Matthias. Oh no, this is where it's going to get terribly wrong, because this is where we come across one of the Polish drivers.
Tuskiewicz from Triton Racing.
That's much easier than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, you got Luka Kita from good to see that Frank Bieler. Now, if anyone might know of Frank Bieler, legend of touring cars in his own right, DTM British touring cars through the 90s and 80s, and also in his latter years, raced in GT3s with Audi. Luca Kita, a 1 minute 40.275. Kamil Pavlovsky from Jean Alesi Sports Academy in the Mercedes, 140.281. Lars Kisser, who we've mentioned already. Corrado Girello, then Gregor Schill, Patrick Pignone from Switzerland, Eamon Murphy, George Boothby, Amir Hosseini, Danilo Santoro, Chris Hartbelt, the 19-year-old from the Netherlands, Sven Hettig from Prime E Racing in there as well, Adam Pincers from Arnage Competition. And also, there is a driver that is associated with the team that Florian Hasse is racing with, Door Esports. Well, they actually have a karting team, Door Motorsport, over in RMC Germany, which heads to Kerpen this weekend. Moritz Lorner, who actually runs in the DTM Trophy, will be running at the Nürburgring this weekend, funnily enough. DTM Trophy alongside DTM this weekend, I believe. So, yeah, quite a few names in there, and there's quite a few others there as well, Yusuf, from Florian Hasse downwards.
Yeah, and just trying to... Actually, for some reason, I saw him for a second, and now, on just my list of driver names, I can no longer see him on the standings. He just disappeared for me.
Oh.
What position did we get up to?
We got to Florian Hasse. That's where we got to, and then it was Luke Whitehead after that one.
Oh, see, I've got Adam Pinchas in P22.
Yeah.
And then Luke Whitehead. So I have a different sheet to you. Oh no, is probably the accurate thing for me to use here. So I'm going to go and try to find a sheet that agrees with yours, which I have found. But sadly, this sheet no longer has driver positions on it. So I'm just going to run through the drivers from Florian Hasse, which is Luke Whitehead. Then you've got Martin Stefanko ahead of Ivan Shermetinsky, Lucas Muller. This time we just have one of the Mullers racing with us, Alessio Cataneo, followed by Finn Haupt, Felix Arndt, Chris Heck, who actually raced with us back in Spa-Francorchamps. Then you've got Ben Hitz, Dennis De Marco, and Igor Sikuro, who before I thought had just missed out on the cutoff, but he has missed out on the cutoff. Himself, the other Lucas Muller, Dave Ladomada, and Marcin. Okay, that I'm going to need your help with, Alex.
Which one?
Marcin Skripchak.
Skripchak, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but, well, the funny thing is that I have there's a driver that I commentate on in the BNL karting series in real life, and he's got. The thing is that he's Belgian, but he's got Polish origin as well.
Okay.
Shriblak. So yeah, to me that would say Skripchak straight off. So looking at it from my perspective, but yeah, it's just one of those things where you just go, oh, I don't know what to make of that one at all. And believe you me, it's same thing from my perspective as well.
I've just found with Polish names, if you turn the Z into an H, you tend to get pretty close to the actual name.
Yeah,
so...
you do. Yeah, definitely.
But
yeah, it's all rather interesting. I just think at the end of the day, there's always going to be those drivers. There's so many of them in this race that could really put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Absolutely. Okay, so my question that I want to throw to you straight away with is...
Right, okay, go.
Ahmed Hosseini and George Boothby. George Booth qualified in second back in Spa-Francorchamps. He had made contact with Bastian Richter. I won't apportion blame either way because I still have not actually seen that incident myself. He dropped down the order, finished ninth. Now he's starting all the way down in P17. What can he pull out? Also, Ahmed Hosseini started 7th back in Spa. Didn't even finish in the top 16 at the end of the race. Do you think either of them can make the top 6?
There is an outside chance. I won't put it past them. but you have to look and see how things are going to sort of develop. You know, we've got a mandatory pit stop in this race.
Yep.
And I remember, and I have to give credit where credit is due with James Baldwin, because he actually posted about the first race of the professional trophy on his YouTube channel. And it actually saw the contact between Richter and Boothby, because Richter got a drive-through penalty as a result of what had happened.
Yes.
So the stewards had declared that Bastian Richter was at fault.
Yep.
And I remember James saying, this might not be the most exciting race. And I was just like, oh, well, there you go. You just gone and done it. James, watch out of the Nürburgring, because I think there's going to be a few people gunning for you, mate. You know, it's but I mean, looking at it, you know, Arthur Cameron, you can't count him out. Amir Hosseini, Chris Hartfeld, Luke Whitehead, when he's got that thing wound up to 11. Now the thing is that I've always seen Luke in a Ferrari, never seen in a McLaren, but we could see something rather limited, different here.
Right.
Whether it's going to limit him is one thing. Whether it's going to be to his betterment is anyone's guess, really. And from my perspective, I think there's quite a few drivers. Martin Stefanko could be in there. Chris Herker, Ben Hitz. You know, there's so many drivers. You know, we just have to wait and see. I'd love to put a prediction, but when I normally predict something, I normally put the commentator's curse on somebody.
Oh, that means now we definitely want to hear the prediction, doesn't it, Alex?
You can. I'm not.
So, okay, the other thing I want to bring up is we saw the incident between, the two drivers on the front row of the grid, Bastian Richter and George Boothby in Spa. Now, here at Imola, the top two drivers, Dennis Schoeniger and Tobias Pfeffer, they both race in the same team. So I want to say it's highly unlikely that we see an incident between the two of them. But I feel like the top four could still maybe have a coming together somewhere. And, well, we saw it in, real life F1. Tamburello chicane, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. If you want to be the driver who doesn't give a lot of room, you are well within your right to drive another driver, run them off the track.
Yeah, I think realistically, the best thing that RHG Academy can do is to maybe get through this. We're going to have an agreement. We're going to make sure that it stays like it is, and then all bets are off for the final, which I think is more than fair.
Yeah.
So you could see a little bit of teamwork coming into play, whether Schoeniger and Pfeffer are rear gunners for each other, depending on who gets to the end of the first lap first. I mean, anyone might remember a little bit of a gentleman's agreement between Senna and Prost when they were teammates at McLaren.
The gentleman's agreements didn't last very long, did it?
No, they didn't back in the early 90s. No, that's for sure. It's from my side of things, it's more a case of looking at it from this perspective that they'll want to have. We have our first penalty. Luke Whitehead has now got a stop and hold penalty for 10 seconds for not being in the driver's briefing. Naughty. Very naughty, Whitehead.
You always have to be in the driver's briefing, folks. Come on, that's when you learn all the way back in karting. Terrible. I mean, I kind of miss those, Alex. Back when you'd have the entire paddock of 500 people nearly, all just crowded around one usually old, disgruntled man screaming into a microphone about track limits and I don't know what else. I mean, for me, the only thing I've got to go off it is
they're coming through thick and fast. Yep. Gregor Schill gets one as well. Oh dear.
Oh no. No. So So,
Right,
okay.
what I want you to do.
Yeah, what I want
That'd
you to
probably be
do
the
is
voice of the guy,
actually
wouldn't
be here.
Yeah.
I always would actually like, big events to actually stream the driver's briefing, because I think it's actually quite insightful to hear what the stewards have to say, because there's a lot of important information that is given, such as how the stewards will be investigating incidents, what are the track limits for certain corners. You get to hear some of the questions that the drivers raise regarding those questions as well, and I think it's just a nice bit of insight that could be added.
Yeah, I think so. As Adam Pincus now is from Arnage competition is the third driver now to get pinged with the 10-second stop and hold penalty. That's 3 out of the drivers. Not. I'm just sort of like thinking how many of them, because I'm just having a look through the Discord server at the moment.
Yeah.
And it says penalties for 10 drivers that were not on the briefing.
Oh no. So, is that going to affect any of our, let's say, favourites to make it to the Nürburgring?
That does depend on what you folks at home see on your screens. Because to be honest with you, here we go again. George Boothby gets one as well.
Oh no.
Anyone got the Jaws music on standby? I'm sure our stream team would have it, but I think it is one of those things that I've had it before where a lot of drivers' briefings nowadays, obviously with the current pandemic situation, especially in karting, a lot of them are either social distancing or they are done online.
Right.
So there is quite a lot. Here we go. Hang on. Oh, we've just seen that one there. So yeah, I mean the thing is that I've seen it before where in other championships or other leagues where you're given like literally a window of opportunity and to get into driver's briefing, and if you don't get into driver's briefing, you can have a bit of a problem. So it's just really one of those things where you just don't know how that's going to change things. So we've seen 4 drivers have those penalties. Well, we did see that Boothby's name came up twice, and yeah, I just realistically think that this could be the moment between where the drivers have one opportunity. Okay, they might have a stop and hold penalty, but think of it this way: it could be a blessing in disguise. They could take that penalty early and go in for it. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've just had a bit of notification from our team, our broadcast team, that they're going to be instigating a new server.
Okay. Well, that means we're going to be on air for a little bit longer before the race starts.
Touche, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, is there anything... I mean, I think we can talk a little bit more about Imola as a circuit as a whole. We talked about Rivazza being one of the big overtaking opportunities. We should probably also mention, turn 2, but it's effectively turn 1, the Tamburello chicane, which is where we saw that incident between George Russell and Valtteri Bottas earlier on in the Formula 1 season, actually.
Yes, where someone decided to get the toys out of the pram, didn't they, George?
Yeah.
Whoops. I think that's all we need to say about that one. That was very much a racing incident, and that was at quite excessive speed as well. When you're talking the best part of 320, 330 kilometers an hour. George went to the outside, thought the move was on, and it wasn't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was weird because the move was on. It was just I would say overreacted to the slight direction change that Bottas made, which put him on the grass, and then wheel spin, and the rest was history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we saw George's sort of, I think probably the most emotional, I think, before both him and Nicholas Latifi scored points in the last round of the 2021 Formula One World Championship.
I'll be honest, Alex. I've seen a very emotional George both at Imola the previous year and following the Bahrain race in 2020 as well.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, the thing is that a lot of these drivers nowadays, they do put their heart on their sleeve. I mean, if anyone might remember, Valtteri Bottas is "To Whom It May Concern."
Yep.
And then we'd have to use a bleep for the next word, I'd say.
Do we have a bleeper?
Max Verstappen has always put his point across. He doesn't really.
He doesn't cherry.
He doesn't mince his words.
Sugarcoat it.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't at all.
Yeah.
I think Lando Norris has been very vocal about mental health over the past few weeks and months, and I think now we're getting to that point where we're seeing a lot more personalities in motorsport, and incidents like that at Tamburello were one that really sparked a lot of debate within the Formula One community. But then it also brings out the bad side of social media, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think social media is just an interesting can of worms to open. Just in general, you get. I mean, sometimes you see the good side, sometimes you see the bad side. It's just like a weapon, it can be used for good and bad. And, well, in the wrong hands, it does get used for bad. And what always seems to be the case, and what is the case, is just the nature of how the world works, is the bad stuff that you always see, whereas the good stuff you don't necessarily see.
Yeah, I completely concur with that statement, 100%. I mean, it's sort of like when I was always of the school of thought that if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And that is probably the best way to approach, I feel, social media. But that's just from my perspective. We are waiting for the. It's really funny because we're seeing what messages are being sent between each other on our respective Discord servers here. But yeah, I like the livery. The don't question
just
that
don't.
delivery.
No, just don't. We don't talk about it. Yeah, it's from an old endurance race that I did, and my friends and I decided to make a entertaining livery, and that's all that we'll talk about it. If any of my friends are listening, they know exactly what that livery is.
Way back when.
Wait, yeah, it was a few months ago. I think it was December last year.
So, whoa, crikey.
But no, I was actually speaking to some other commentators for some other games, and they were saying that some of the Discords they're in, their production so there are lots of different production chats. You have the chill production chat, just random messages. Then you got serious production chat, and apparently what they'd do is they'd put just random jokes and images, inappropriate images as well, in the important production chat to try to get the commentators to laugh and lose face in the middle of a broadcast while the cameras were on them.
Yeah.
I find very entertaining. So that's my one for you there, Alex.
Yeah, I think people have tried to do that to me before, and it hasn't quite worked.
No, hasn't worked again from the sounds of it.
No, it hasn't. I mean, the funny thing is that one of my friends who has, like you have a trigger point or a trigger word that you can get someone to laugh with. Well, one of my friends who will remain nameless, there is a word that sets him off, and literally, we've done like live quiz shows on something, and we were using that word, and it got him every single time to the point where he just had to stop. Like literally, he had to mute his mic. It was that bad. The good thing is that when we were broadcasting, we went, yes, there is a lot of silence because someone has muted their mic this evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
and it wasn't me.
Well, that's always a positive.
it is always a positive because you can laugh along with them, and that sets them up even more. Which, from my perspective, is quite funny. But yeah, I think realistically, I mean, coming back as we're digressing a little bit here from what we're meant to be talking about. I mean, obviously, for those that have just joined us, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching in the world. We have broken some news about the fact that Fanatec is joining the list of exhibitors for the ADAC SimRacing Expo being held between September the 17th and the 19th at the Nürburgring itself. So really good to hear. And it seems like Tom Hyatt, who does follow me on Twitter, I might add, he basically went, yeah, really enjoying, like literally within, I think it was 4 days later, he actually received it. He said, yeah, this was 3 days ago. 4 days after the Sim Racing Expo Community Trophy competition and the win in both the special race and the main race, she is here, and that is referring to the fact that CSL D2, and he said, "Damn, does she feel good?" were his exact words on Twitter, and that just goes to show that when you win something, and also he is part of BLA Racing Team Euronics, along with Luca Kita, who's actually in tonight's race. So yeah, I mean it's really good that we've been able to here at ADAC SimRacing Expo, powered by Corvana, to be able to give something back to the community. And sim racing over the past, I think, 18 or so months has really sort of up to level, and through sim racing, that's how you and I got to know each other.
Yeah,
working on another broadcast altogether, and it's just really nice that it makes for knowing so many different personalities, irrespective of walk of life and things like that. It just means that we've all been able to. I mean, for me, esports was always on my radar. Now, this is something I haven't really admitted that much, but until the pandemic hit,
right.
esports was probably on my radar for maybe say a couple of years from now. When the pandemic hit, everything accelerated, and I just thought, oh, here's something new. Let's go for it and see what happens. And here I am now.
Here we are,
Indeed. And just really enjoying how much of a community there is in sim racing. People go, yeah, well, you'll never change anything from in real life. And I said, hang on a second. And like, here's me being the man that used to be sitting on the middle of the fence. I see great great things coming from both sides of the coin, from sim racing and from in real life. Now you look at who has graduated into real life racing, like Jan Mardenborough, Lucas Ordonez, to name but a few. Rudy Van Buren originally was a real life racer, won World's Fastest Gamer, and then James Baldwin won World's Fastest Gamer in his own right, and is won our first professional trophy race.
Yep.
And you look at those people that have thought, like when we didn't have real life racing, where did all the real life racers go? They went on to so many different platforms. I've commentated on the likes of Alex Buncombe, Jan Mardenborough, all that lot as well. It looks like things have gotten a bit back to some form of normality here.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget as well that the likes of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris were racing before the pandemic did strike. And I mean, for me, I look at it in a very simple way. I like watching racing. I don't really care where that racing's happening. I don't care if it's 5-year-olds racing around in some pedal carts. If it's cool racing, I'll watch it, right? Or if it's in Formula 1 cars going at over 200 miles an hour. As long as it's good, fun racing battles, then yeah, I'm for it. And one of the things that I found when I first started commentating, which was back on F1 2018, was, oh boy, this F1 races on the sim racing platform are way more fun than the real life races. the F1 esports was much more fun for me to watch, at the very least, than the real life races. So for me, it was just a no-brainer. And I do hear the argument sometimes of, oh, there's no risk, there's no danger. I'm like, if you want to watch a sport where, you know, the contestants are in danger, you can go watch boxing or go watch NASCAR, is what I like to say, because you'll get plenty of incidents occurring there.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like, put them in a cage with someone like, say, Tito Ortiz or Randy the Natural Couture back in the day. As we now are back on the circuit itself. There's
rewatch Suzuka with Senna and Prost.
Oh God, Casio triangle. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Forget turn one or turn
yeah.
one. But Casio triangle for me sticks out in my mind because that was 89, and then 1990 it was. Literally.
You know what they say? You know the Bermuda Triangle is where stuff goes missing, right? Unexplicable things occur. The Casio Triangle is where any remnants of a friendship vanish.
Well, there was a little bit like, to begin with, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Barcelona turn 4 or Monaco down into Casino. Or actually Istanbul on the straight between two Red Bulls.
All I'm going to say is multi-21 to that one.
Yes, actually that's a good point, yeah. Where did it all start going wrong?
Yeah. But I mean, looks like there's plenty of sunshine here at Imola.
What we love to see.
Named after funnily enough, earlier on this week, it was actually 1988 that Enzo Ferrari passed away. So it's been 33 years since his passing. The circuit itself first had foundation stones laid back in March of 1950, with the late Enzo Ferrari actually present. The circuit named after not just him after his passing in 88, but in 1970 when his son Dino died of leukemia about 4 years previously. It was first named Autodromo Dino Ferrari, and then the Enzo E was added on 18 years later. But still a pretty big challenge for these drivers that we've got here tonight, Yusuf. And riding aboard with Danilo Santoro from the Gianolesi Esports Academy, the 313 Ferrari. Got one of the BMW Team G2 Esports M6. I mean, you know, that car's now being replaced by the M4 GT3, where there has been a lot of people commenting about the front grille of the car. But as they say, form does follow function on that vehicle. And I should know through my automotive background for over 2 decades.
Now, I have some good news for you, Alex.
Go on.
And I think you might like this news. If I can... Sometimes I really hate... So I managed to actually get into the server itself. So I'm riding on board with some of the drivers. And I have a feeling you might want to see my POV. So, for that reason, I've set up a nice screen share in our lovely old Discord chat.
Have you?
I have indeed.
Oh, hang on a second. I will just need to join it.
I just need to work out now how to actually do some of the camera controls.
I've had to mute the stream, mute the Discord side of things, so at least I can actually see. You're on board with Tobias Pfeffer, who qualified in 2nd position, and he's currently going through Variante Alta. I didn't need a track map for that one at all, did I?
No. I don't know how you worked out. Oh, yes, of course, that's how you worked it out. Alex, you're a much smarter man than I am.
Oh, well. And the thing is that I don't have the equipment required in order to get onto Assetto Corsa Competizione.
If you want, I can give you control of my screen and you can go and do all the keybinds for me.
Mate, to be honest with you, I wouldn't know where to start. I'm just like one of these people that likes talking about racing. But Niklas Huben at the moment, on this free practice session, has gone top of the timesheets, 1 minute 41.007. Amir Hosseini, 15 thousandths adrift. Batir Pignone from Switzerland, running at the top 3. Arthur Camara from BMW Team G2 Esports, 7 tenths adrift in 4th. Then Danilo Santoro. And then we've got Hettig in the number 7 McLaren. Sven Hettig from Prime E-Racing, the 28-year-old from Germany. It is Niklas Huben who leads the way in this practice session. Hopefully we'll get things back underway very, very soon. Sven Hettig in the nicely liveried McLaren 720S GT3, I must admit. Rocking a little bit of a potential Brawn Racing in the BGP 001 from 2009, where Jenson Button picked up the title, and Brawn GP, which then later became Mercedes Petronas AMG Motorsport, took the 2009 World Championship, and it wouldn't be until Lewis Hamilton in 2014 for Mercedes to effectively win another title. And it was their first time since 1955 since they'd actually entered back in as a manufacturer into Formula One. So, but yeah, I think in some respects we could be in for a bit of a barnstormer here tonight, as drivers now getting back up to speed in the new server that has been provided. As Hettig going through into the Vatsa. And at the moment, well, it has changed at the top. Tobias Pfeffer has gone quickest again. 1 minute 40.2 flat. Ahead of Danilo Santoro. And there we also have Mateusz Juskovic in the 724 Triton Racing Bentley. Running at the top 3, Niklas Huben, Amir Hosseini. Running at the top 5, covered by just over 8 tenths of a second. But I think one of the things that I think that everyone is waiting for those watching on the relevant streams, whether it be Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitch, and I think that's what we're all waiting for, is to see who's going to get through Tamburello unscathed. Is the biggest bone of contention right here, right now, to be honest with you. I think you and I both can't wait for that.
Well, you mentioned we like to commentate on racing, and we were told that we had racing coming. And this was a little bit ago. We have had some unfortunate delays. We will be jumping in shortly. And we will have to see who will be making their way into, well, turn 1 first. We know we've got the 2 Romain Grosjean drivers. I say Romain Grosjean drivers. It makes it sound like Romain Grosjean himself is racing, which would be inaccurate. It's the Romain Grosjean eSport drivers of Dennis Schoeniger and Tobias Pfeffer on the front row of the grid. In the 2 Audis, you've got Niklas Huben in an Audi. We'll be starting in 3rd, ahead of Dominic Blyer, who rounds out the top 4. Remember, the top 6 advance to the Nürburgring live event at the ADAC SimRacing Expo in the Nürburgring.
So, there on your screens, Dennis Schoeniger and Tobias Pfeffer will be on the front row of the grid. And there will be Niklas Huben and Dominic Blyer. So 3 Germans and a driver from Poland in the top 4. But then it gets a bit mixed up in row 3. Andrea Capoccia and Maxime Batifourier, that will be row number 3. Then it's an all-German row 4. For what will be Mark Balzer from Routronic E-Racing and Arthur Kamara from BMW Sim Team G2 Esports. Mateusz Tinkovic and Luca Kita from Triton Racing and Bila Racing Team Euronics. That rounds out pretty much the top 10, and you can see here Tobias Pfeffer in the 324 RHE sports car. Still leading away. Luca Kita from Bila Racing Team Euronics. Running out the top 2, Batifourier in the 994 Bentley. That's a pretty good showing there. Yeah, hopefully very soon we should be getting things underway with racing action here at the ADAC Road to Sim Racing Expo. Round 2 of the professional trophy. 6 drivers have already qualified. So who will be joining? James Baldwin, Giorgio Simonini, Marek Shins, Kevin Ciclari, Nikodem Wisniewski, and Jaroslav Honzik into the finale. And at the moment, I think the oldest driver out of that field is one of the most experienced. That's Jaroslav Honzik. Now, I would love to see. Now, I'm going to give a bit of a shout out here. Lukas Redl from Virtual GP. He will know Martin Stefanko and Jaroslav Honzik very well because they both competed in Virtual GP. Looks like very shortly, Yusuf, we'll be getting things underway with our racing, which we've been long awaiting for at this particular juncture.
I heard a T-minus 60, and by 60, I'm not talking about 60 minutes, I'm talking about 60 seconds. And that was a fair few seconds ago, and there we can see on your screens everyone lined up on circuit. For those of you unfamiliar with how ACC works, or maybe how endurance racing works, we will have one rolling lap. After our rolling lap, we will then start with a rolling start. It's not a stop-go start. Rolling starts tend to be a little bit more fun as well sometimes.
Yeah, indeed it does. And we've got just over 1 minute and 40 left to go, or around about 1 minute and 40 left to go still on. And look, there we go. We've got all the cars lining up on the grid. And it is an all Audi front row in Italy. And it's an all R8G Esports front row with Dennis Schoeniger and Niklas Pfeffer, Tobias Pfeffer coming through. I mean, like, just literally this 4.909 kilometer circuit. It's just a fraction over 3 miles. I think we know what we're in for, you and I. We're in for a bit of madness, a bit of pandemonium, but also some great racing with so many different manufacturers represented. I think there is a car now. I'm wondering if that is Pavlovsky from the Jean Lacy Esports Racing Academy, because I see a gap next to Lars Kisser on what will be row 6. So yeah, I must say though, I have to give credit to Beta Racing Team Euronics. I thought the Unicorns of Love came out with jazzy liveries. So Lars Kisser has got Luca Kita just ahead. There's plenty of blue and yellow. Now, for anyone that might remember Gary Paffett when he ran in DTM with Mercedes-AMG Motorsport, he actually ran in the Euronics colours. It looks like, Yusuf, we're about to get underway with the rolling start lap.
We are indeed. Schoeniger and Pfeffer on the front row of the grid, and they will pull away. It's an Audi 1, 2, 3. But as we mentioned before, Alex, where do we see the action? Is it down into turn 1 or the first chicane? Is it Tamburello chicane that we see the action? Or maybe it's heading towards Dossa, or maybe even far later in the lap. Maybe it's when they head down into Rivazza for the first time tonight.
Yeah, well, I'll quickly run through the grid anyway. Dennis Schoeniger and Tobias Pfeffer on the front row. Niklas Huben and Dominic Blyer, row 2. Andrea Capoccia, Maxime Batifouye, row 3. Mark Balzer and Arthur Camera, row 4. Matthias Chuskovic and Luca Kita, row 5, completing the top 10. Completing the top 20, it's Kamil Pavlovsky, Lars Kisser, Corrado Cirello, Gregor Schill, Patrick Pignon, Eamon Murphy, George Boothby, Amir Hosseini, Danilo Santoro, Chris Hartveld, and it's Sven Hetig, Adam Pincers, Soren Hasser, Luke Whitehead, Martin Stefanko, Ivan Shamatinsky, Lucas Müller, and that's Lucas with a C, not a K, because unfortunately one with a K missed out on the cutoff. Alessio Cataneo Flimhaupt, Felix Arndt, Chris Herker, and Ben Hitz. Yeah, I think realistically, Yusuf, they've got it. We could see it at multiple points on this circuit where drivers could really come under the kibosh, so to speak. You know, going into Tamburello, I mean, that's a trigger point, if any. Villeneuve's going to be just as much as one. Torza's going to be tight, and you're going to see drivers maybe go towards the inside, maybe towards the outside. Piratella, the sweeping, fast left-hander going through into Acqua Minerale. That's going to be another crucial point on this circuit. We've got to get it right. Variante Alta, I've seen it where 4 cars have gone wide. It's gone 4 wide into that corner, and that never works out well at all. 2 abreast is probably the most you can squeeze through Variante Alta at a push. Rivazza, maybe 2, 3 abreast. Who knows? But I think we're very close to getting the racing action underway for 60 minutes here on the second and final round of the qualifying stages for the professional trophy.
We are indeed. 6 drivers have already qualified for the ADAC SimRacing Expo finals in Nürburgring. And within an hour or so, we will be finding which 6 drivers will be joining them. As we head down towards Rivazza, the drivers will make their way 2 by 2. Your top 6 drivers, your top 6 cars, Audis and Bentleys, who can put a spanner in their works. Will it be Camera in the BMW for G2 Esports? Maybe even going a little bit further down the order, George Boothby in the McLaren. We know how well he could have done at Spa if it didn't all go sour on the opening lap. But Schoeninger and Pfeffer on to the start-finish straight. And we wait for the lights to go green. We wait for Schoeninger to put the pedal down and try to pull away. Wait for those engine notes to rise. It's going to be a late pull. See the lights on the top left of your screen, and with that, not just underway yet. There we go, green light, and Schoeninger will pull away. It's a decent start from Huben as well behind. Can he tuck in behind the Roman Grosjean esports driver and go down the inside of Pfeffer into turn 1? No, he's going to have to stay behind, and the top 3 will be as they were. Schoeninger from Pfeffer and Huben.
Yeah, Blyer still very much in the mix there, Yusuf, but Capoca, Batifouye, don't count them out. Off the camera. In 8th position at the moment. Oh, there's been a little bit of a drama. Lars Kisser, I think, has dropped a few places in the meantime. But it's nearly 3 abreast. Gregor Schill nearly getting a little bit of a touch. He manages to stay out of trouble, but puts the wheel on the left rear wheel onto the dusty stuff as they go through into Tosa for the first time. It's not easy out there. Luke Whitehead now trying to make his way up the order. He's now trying to go side by side with Gregor Schill, and that's not very easy going through into Piratella. They go into the sweeping left hand of the BMW. Has to give way. Now, Luke Whitehead absolutely sent around the outside of Gregor Schill. That was something I didn't expect there. Now, Luke Whitehead does have a bit of credence. There has been a little bit of touching in front. Looks like everyone's getting stuck into front and rear bumpers. Hartfeld into the back of Lukas Müller. So Sven Hetzig had a hit from behind as well.
Yeah, and we actually just saw as well, it was Matthias Tischkevich who had a bit of a contact with Kita going through Piratella. He lost the back end momentarily, so he dropped behind Kita and Ciriello as well. And now he is down into P11. Remember, the top 6 qualify in that 6th spot. That cutoff is currently being held by Balzer.
Yeah, Pincus and looks like Müller are going toe-to-toe. Dominic Blažer's dropping a bit behind from the 3 Audis. Schoeninger still leads.
Kisser's going round the outside of Tischkevsky into the first chicane. He's going to squeeze them wide on the exit as well. They're rubbing doors between the pair of them as they make their way through the fast-flowing left-hander. And look at that. Pignon is trying to get himself involved as well. Kisser again on the outside, this time into the Villeneuve chicane. And this time he gets the job done, or has he? Because now he's got the inside heading down in Tischkevich on the outside. Will he be able to carry the momentum? And he will not. He's going to have to slot in behind the Audi on the run up towards Piratella.
Yeah, things are looking a bit closer at the front of the field. I mean, Schoeninger's only got just over a 10.5 lead over Tobias Pfeffer. Niklas Huben right there, front and centre. Patrick Pignone closing in on Tischkevich. That's going into Piratella, but couldn't look up the inside. Amir Hosseini in the number 24 McLaren, darting to the left, darting to the right, looks up the inside through the first part of Aqua Minerale. Amir Hosseini is really coming alive in this race. George Boothby already up behind Hosseini and is battling away with Danilo Santoro in the number 313 from JC Esports. Ben Hetzig, Chris Hartfeld, Gregor Schill, and Luke Whitehead round out the top 20. But the biggest gap that I see is between Batifouye and Balzer between 5th and 6th position, as Hartfeld looks to be battling side by side once again, this time maybe with, just going to have a look back, see what is happening there. I think that could be with Lukas Müller there, and well, Actually, my apologies there. George Boothby, he's gotten past, and now keep your eyes on the BMW G2 esports car because that is closing. Gregor Schill trying to go towards the inside into Tamburello on Sven Hettig. Might have gotten the move done. Not quite. I'm not too sure. So we head a little bit further back. Eamon Murphy's been in the wars. Oh no! Gregor Schill's been turned around, and Lukas Muller has got nothing but being an unwanted recipient of having Gregor Schill spinning around. I think there was contact. So Gregor Schill might have a bit of hefty damage there after that incident, which could have. I really need to look at that incident again, to be honest with you. But that's a real shame. Gregor Schill was in towards the bottom part of the top 20. But now look at Dennis Schoeninger from R8G Esports. He's now pulled a gap of nearly 7 tenths ahead of Tobias Pfeffer. And then you look behind, getting a lot closer between Pfeffer, Huben, Blyer, and also Batifouye, for what is second on the road. Maltz is the one in the drop zone in the minute, but is a second ahead of Andrea Copoccia. Alta Camera has been getting on with business. Now, here's a replay. Now, this has been with Sven Hettig. This is going through into the left, into the right. There's a little bit of a touch. And, oh, Gregor Schill, I think, just had the slightest of touches. That would have been with George Boothby, and that would have put him into the path of Lukas Muller. And I'm afraid to say that looked to be... Right, okay. So, under investigation... we've got lap 1, turn 9, causing a collision. That was between Tuskovitz and Luka Kita from Biela Racing Team Euronics. So they are investigating one at the moment. But Schoeninger at the moment, Yusuf, is pulling a gap. It's not going to be much, but it's probably going to be enough as Capoccia is being hounded by camera and Luka Kita. Chiriello is not too far adrift in the number 56 Mercedes. So we thought the first race at Spa was a pretty good one. Here at Imola, it has taken a completely different dynamic.
Absolutely. We haven't seen any incidents between the top few drivers. Not yet, anyway. I'll tell you what, Luka Kita is looking rather quick. He's all over the rear of camera. We'll see whether he can find a way through in the coming laps. Has a bit of a moment with the rear end on the exit of the Variante Alta. He'll be able to keep that rear end on circuit firmly as they make their way down now towards Hrvatska. Nearly 7 minutes have passed of the 1 hour race, and everyone pretty much in one long group, with the exception of the number 72 car. That is Mr. Schill, who had that incident, which we were able to catch a replay of. Yeah,
I mean, as a commentator, I would probably say that might have just been a little bit of a racing incident there. It didn't cause a problem for Hettig. It caused more of a problem for Gregor Schill on that particular occasion. No, it wasn't Hettig, it was Boothby, I think. So difficult when you're trying to look at an aerial shot of a replay, and then you think, was it that driver or was it that driver? You sort of have to second guess yourself a little bit there. But things are starting to get into a particular rhythm, and that's one of the key important points. You know, Spa of this circuit here at Imola, Tautodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari. Right, okay. Under investigation, contact between Eamon Murphy and Danilo Santoro. So, race control are busier this evening than they were at Spa-Francorchamps 13 days ago. So there's going to be quite a lot of work behind the scenes. I don't envy being a race control steward, do you, Yusuf?
I'm happy here in the commentary booth, I'll be honest with you, Alex. Yeah, I'll
makes
stay
two
here.
of us. That makes two of us.
Yeah. I've been unfortunate enough to have to fill in and do race stewarding from time to time, and you can never make these racing drivers happy, can you?
Can't please everybody.
Yeah, quite literally. Or in my case, I didn't please either of them. Just give them more penalties. Just ban them from the next race. There we go. Luka Kita is right on the back of camera, and I'm just wondering if he can get enough of a slipstream from this BMW to have a look at down into the Tamburello chicane. He's going to look to the outside. Don't do a George Russell there. He's getting very close to the grass. Looks for the outside, but Camera will slam the door shut through the right-hand portion of the chicane.
That was a brilliant move there by Arthur Camera. Just and you know, both these drivers, Arthur Camera and Luca Kita, you know, BMW Team G2 Esports, reigning and defending Sprint Cup, SimGrid Sprint Cup champions. So they've got one of, you know, all three drivers, Niles Noyox, Arthur Camera and Gregor Schill, when they are on fire, they are on fire. And Arthur Camera seems to be the one that's got Lady Luck on his side a little bit, and it hasn't. It's no four-leaf clover, I'm afraid, for Gregor Schill at this particular juncture. But, right, okay, we're getting, there's some more incidents being investigated. Lucas Muller and Luke Whitehead. And that's lap 1, turn 14. So the stewards have been ultra busy. I didn't foresee that. I kind of thought, that might be the case. And we're less than 10 minutes in, Yusuf. And the stewards are probably scribbling down notes like it was going out of fashion right now.
I do wonder actually how the system is working, because I know in some instances, actually in most instances, the stewards won't look at anything unless it is submitted by a driver or, you know, a teammate of the driver, whether that's their engineer or something similar. So I wonder if that's the same process in effect, or if the stewards are, you know, trying to look at any incident that they do spot on circuit.
Yeah, no further action between Kita and Tuskowitz on the first lap. That's the first decision that has been made by race control. But this battle here, I mean, Schoenninger's not getting away. Pfeffer's closing in. Huben's in third. So basically, Piggy in the middle is Nicolas Huben. Dominic Blyer and Maxime Batifoulier from Arnage Competition. I mean, this is... you look at it from this perspective. The top 5... If there's a major clanger drop by any one of these 5 drivers in the next 49 minutes, then that's going to open the proverbial floodgates. Mark Balzer is battling away with Andrea Capoccia for what is the final spot out of 12. So we've already had the first 6, you know, Baldwin, Simonini, Shins, Ciclari, Wisniewski, and Honzik. This is what you like to see. You want to see drivers break away from the rest of the field. I mean, the pit stop when that comes in, okay, that's gonna up the ante, so to speak, Yusuf. But you look at the gap between Batifoulier and it's now Capoccia who rounds out the top 6.
Actually, I'm going to cut across you here, Alex, because Blyer is looking for a move onto Huben. Huben's going to go defensive. Blyer, can he hang it round the outside? Does he have enough speed in that Bentley? And Huben's going to slam the door shut into the braking zone. But Blyer getting very, very close. He's practically alongside Huben on the run up the start-finish straight. And you can already see visibly the gap that Pfeffer has been able to pull to the third Audi in this group.
Yeah. Also, Mark Balzer, who was in 6th position, has dropped like a stone because Andrea Capoccia, Arthur Camera is on the verge, and Arthur Camera at the moment is less than 3.5 tenths behind Andrea Capoccia. So you've got the top 5 there. Here's the 2 battling over 6th and 7th. So Capoccia and Camera battling away. Another incident. Crikey, they're coming through thick and fast, aren't they? Ettic and Luke Whitehead. And that was on lap 6, turn 2. On to lap number 8 at the minute. But I think it's going to be not a case of if. It's going to be a case of when. Does Arthur Cameron pull the trigger and get past Andrea Capoccia? Because that is for the final spot for the live battle for the professional trophy that will take place on September the 18th at the Nürburgring.
Absolutely, and for Camera, he's going to have to work out when does he want to pull the trigger. We don't know what strategies these guys are planning to make. It could be a case of one driver's going to be putting in 5-10 minutes time to put in fuel to go to the end. Another driver might be going along, might be wanting to go to 50 minutes and then pit, splash and dash, go to the end of the race. These GT3 cars can easily do 1 hour on a fuel tank, so the strategy is entirely up to the drivers, a strategy that they would have had to make at the start of the race. You know, before they gridded up, they would have had to decide how much fuel they wanted to put in the car, and they will want to run those fuel tanks to the point where they are completely dry before pitting.
Yeah. So as Tuskovic behind Lars Kisser from the Unicorns of Love. Unicorns of Love. I know quite a few other drivers like Leonard Toki, René Sievert, Tobias Grunwald. I'm sure that they're going to be watching. They're probably in the ears of Lars Kisser, who is closing in on Chiriello in the number 56 Mercedes at the moment. Luca Kita just up ahead of that battle in 8th place as they make their way down through Piratella. No further action in the incident between Gregor Schill and Lucas Müller on incident number 13. So very swift judgments being made. Probably not in the favour of the drivers that might have thought that they were wronged. However, that is part and parcel of racing. As we now are into the first 15 minutes completed, 3/4 of the race still to go.
And Alex, I've got good news for any fans of the Romain Grosjean esports team, because that incident, or that attempted overtake from Blyer onto Huben, has meant that Huben is now over a second behind Pfeffer and Schoeniger, and the pair of them are just working together. They've been pulling away from this trio of cars lap after lap, and now they are over a second clear. And if they can pull a little bit further, Huben's not really going to be getting much of an effect of slipstream, and it's just going to make things even easier for Schoeniger and Pfeffer to pull even further away.
Yeah, as Luke Whitehead, that's up the inside of Chris Hartveld from the Netherlands. So another move made by Luke Whitehead, who is scything his way up the field. Actually, he got back behind the wheel of Carter. Oh, now. First penalty coming in. Now, obviously, we did have the stop and hold 10. Yeah, stop and hold penalties, didn't we, for not being in driver's briefing? Luke Whitehead was one of them.
Honestly, I've forgotten who the others were, but he's just picked up another penalty.
Well, the good thing
10
was Luke Whitehead was one of them. Gregor Schill was another. George Boothby and Adam Pincers were 4 of the drivers that I think got those penalties.
Right.
And a big thank you to myself from our broadcast team that actually there are 4 spotters for race control that actually view the race and report directly to the race director. So that's why decisions are so expedient.
There you go. Well, good job on the spotters then, spotting the incidents that come their way. And it might be good job on Bati Fourier, who is looking for a move on Blyer. But Blyer, you can just hang it wide on the start-finish straight, and it just leaves the car with no opportunity behind to try to find a way through. And Blyer will be able to hold on to that P4 spot, but we're getting glimpses every now and then of a potential overtake that could come through, and it could be potentially a big overtake as well if it does end up occurring.
Yeah, like you say, it's always the old adage, not if, but when does that occur? So there are quite a few drivers actually being pinged.
Oh, camera!
Yeah.
No.
Now, they did say that multiple drivers were not in driver's briefing, so that is a stop and hold penalty. So I'll have to stop in pits.
As well.
Yeah. There were quite a few drivers.
Yeah.
So they are coming through thick and fast. So this is where, and also the 994 car. Who is that? Trying to remember 994. That is probably more than likely Asbati Fouillet.
Yep.
In there as well. So a lot of.
Essentially, right now, your top 6 with time penalties being included: Schoeniger, Verhuben, Boccia, Kita, and Chiriello, which is kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy, but We do know for a fact that these drivers. Now, my biggest quandary here is that a stop? That will be a stop and hold at the pit stop. So it's only going to affect them at the pit stop. So those cars can't be worked on for 10 seconds, but then they can be serviced afterwards.
Kiss has just had a moment. And now Tuskovic might just be able to have a look. So Kisser ran wide, actually going into the Tamburello chicane. He looked to actually try to hold it round the outside of Ciriello. And, well, he soon found that there was just no grip whatsoever, understeered and went through the gravel.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot when you think about it. But, yeah, I mean, Kiss is doing a really good job. Tuskovic has got a 10-second stop and hold penalty, so that's going to really impede them. So, yeah, I think looking at it, this is going to throw the proverbial cat in the room where all the pigeons are hiding right now, and it's going to be a very, very compact room here, I think.
Absolutely. Just every time I switch to a battle, every time I see a battle, I just think, oh, maybe this lap is going to happen. But drivers being sensible, just sitting one behind the other, and especially for now, Blaye and Batifuye, as that's a drive-through penalty coming on in for track limits, and that's going the way of number 81, who... There is no number 80. Oh, wait, no, there is a number 81. It's Shermetinsky. So he's got a drive-through penalty.
Ooh.
That's practically his race done. But
Yeah, and now the pit stop window's open. Pit stop window is open for the next 19.5 minutes. So I mean, the thing is that if I was the likes of Blaye, Batifuye, Camera, Tuskovic, Whitehead, Boothby's already pitted. He's already blinked. He's wanting to get that penalty out of the way. By doing so, Shermetinsky now makes his way through. Shermetinsky, one of the more recent signings to the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. But you can still see the likes of, I mean, Blaye is closing in on Huben. They've got 19 minutes of the pit stop window to serve. But then when you think about it, I think Boothby's opened up the floodgates here. I think he's going for the primo undercut. You know, he's going for it early. And he thinks, right, okay, let's put a little bit more fuel so we've got a bit more of an opportunity to close in. And there is the drive-through is being cleared for Shermetinsky in the 81. So Shermetinsky has to bring it round again. So with the drive-through, you can't serve that. And then also, we're now going to see, now this is between Hosseini, showing up on our screens at the moment. I think that might be Boothby possibly. These two know each other very, very well. Now this is going in to Divatsa, and yeah, Hosseini just kept it planted. Nice work done there. So I think the thing is that Boothby, okay, is outside of the top 23. However, once this pit stop window cycles around, I would expect Boothby probably to be a little bit closer towards the top 10. Lars Kisser is now in the pits. So some are using a bit of a different strategy. You know, some will do the overcut, some will do the undercut. And Boothby's gone for, as I said, an early undercut. So is Lars Kisser. So it could be some drivers might want to make their strategies count rather than beating people out on track. Doing the pit stop phase, and that can open up so many opportunities. But I think Schoeninger and Pfeffer could do the long run here. They've had no penalties given to them like some of the other drivers have. Under investigation, Mark Balton and Luca Kita, lap 7, turn 7, causing an avoidable collision. So realistically, with 17.25 minutes to go, Lars Kiss is going to drop outside of the top 23 very shortly anyway. Then you have to factor in where do Blaye, Batifuye, Camera, Tuskovic, Whitehead, Pincers, Herka, where are they all going to factor in when they come out from the pit stop? That's the key 64,000 euro question we need to be asking ourselves. Pincers and Hetic, no further action. But Schoeninger started to pull away from Pfeffer, wondering who's got the better strategy out of these two. They could be on an equal strategy here, depending on what the team are doing. and what the engineers are saying to them in their ears.
Now, regarding that, what was it, 36,000 euro question, I have some information regarding that. And that's Blaya and Batifuya are 6 seconds clear of Capoccia and Camera. And then Chidiello is a further, 3 seconds down. So, Blaya and Batifuya, when they make their pit stop and when they then feed out after serving 10 seconds, they will come out ahead of Chidiello and behind Kita.
Mm-hmm. But then there's also the question of how much fuel are you going to put in? Are you going to stick a litre in? Are you going to put tyres on? If you put tyres on, straight away, that's an automatic 30-second block.
I don't think none of the drivers. I don't think I'm going to put tyres on. I think the tyres can easily do a full length stint, which is about 1 hour 20 minutes in these cars. That you're not going to sacrifice 30 seconds because you won't gain that time back up. And then even if you do, overtaking is going to be practically a nightmare. So I think it's just going to be fuel going in. And we talked about the early pit stop that came in from George Booth. He did the same thing back at Spa, if you remember, after his incident. Pitted as soon as he could, and then tried to climb his way through the order. But you have to remember, when you pit earlier, it means you had less fuel in the car. It means you've got to stay in the pit lane for longer to add more fuel in. And that's a balance that you have to decide as a driver. Do you go for an early pit stop? You have a lighter car at the start of the race. Therefore, you can go faster compared to someone who's got more fuel. But when the pit stops come around, you've got to stay in the pits for a second, maybe even 5 seconds longer to add in that extra fuel.
Yeah, and that, depending on how much fuel you have to put into the car, also depends on how much lap time you lose. And, if you're putting, let's say a gallon, let's say 4.5 litres is worth 2.5 tenths of a second, you want to fill up the car earlier. Take that initial pain, short-term gain for long-term pain, as they say, and get it out of the way. And then at least you know that when you go into that pit stop, and you go, right.
Oh, Cameron's just made contact with Capoccia, who got a bad exit out of the Villeneuve chicane, and now he's right on its rear end through Torse. It was just a little bit of contact between the two of them, and hopefully neither of them got damaged. But Kita joining into the fray as well as they make their way up towards Piratella. Yeah,
I've just noticed that Luke Whitehead, Chris Hartveld, we've also got Finn Halt and Mateusz Tyszkiewicz have now pitted, and I am seeing that one saying, we've got Q on Twitch saying that's crazy. Well, there were 10 penalties given out for people not being in the briefing, and here is a replay of what we saw, what Yusuf and I just clocked a little bit earlier on. So that was the bad move. Oh, that's a bit of a 50-50 on that one. I class that as a racing incident because, Capoccia got a bad exit out of it. Camera would have seen him probably put those couple of left wheels on the dust, but he would have had hardly any time to react.
Yeah,
and especially when an Audi's like about a car length ahead. Right, Schoening has pitted from the lead. Blyer's also pitted. Oh, Keita's come in from 8th. So 12 minutes and just under 13 minutes to the pit stop window still to go. So this is for a de facto 4th place, but they've got one car just up ahead. I did see an Audi just up ahead, but blue flags are being waved. Now, back marker traffic's going to be crucial here as well.
Yep. And I'm keeping an eye on Schoeniger because it's really important where he feeds out. I think Kita was incredibly smart to pit on that lap, considering the amount of battling that Camera and Capoccia were doing. They were then 7.5 seconds behind Batifuya. And remember, Batifuya has that 10-second time penalty. So a couple more seconds, Batifuya could actually not lose any positions after his time penalty, which would be absolutely huge for him. Now, Schoeniger is making his way out of the pits. He's going to be in completely clean air.
Yeah, and that now gives an opportunity for Schoeniger in the number 9. Gregor Schiller's now pitted in the number 72 BMW G2 eSports car, as Alpha Camera still battling away with Andrea Capoccia. And
Beffer pitting, so is Huben.
Oh, so that's going to change things for the lead. I mean, it just depends on how quickly Batifuye decides to go in for the kill.
So remember, Schoeniger was leading. He was about a couple of tenths ahead of Pfeffer when he came into the pit. And there's just one lap difference between the lap that they have decided to pit. So can Schoeniger hold on to the effective race lead?
A really good battle here between Dominic Blyer and Luca Kita. This is for what is 14th at the moment on the road. Pignon's also pitted from 8th. Huben's pitted as well. So Pincers is now pitted and now serving a penalty, serving the 10-second stop and hold. Sven Hedvig also in the pits. No movement from Chris Herker at the minute. Arthur Cameron now finds himself in P3. Luca Kita we've ride on board from the dash cam, picture in picture, as you see Kita closing in on Blyer once again. The 111 from Triton DB1 Racing. The hunt for no further action for incident number 17 between Luca Kita and Mark Balgsa. Numbers 11 and 13 as determined.
Oh, here comes Schoeniger onto the start-finish straight. Is he going to be able to do it? Is he going to be able to jump ahead of his teammate? No, he can't. He's behind Pfeffer. Pfeffer's pulled off the overcut and takes the lead here at Imola.
Well. That is one for the books right there, as we've got just half of the race remaining, but also half of the pit stop window remaining. So just under 10 minutes to go for the pit stop window. Less than 30 minutes to go for the race. And yeah, Schoeniger behind Pfeffer. So, and look who's behind. Niklas Huben. Oh, this is going to be rather exciting. No further action in the qualms of the incident between Andrea Capoccia and Arthur Camera, incident number 18. No further action according to race control. So Capoccia in the pits, Hosseini in the pits, Santoro in the pits. So it's Batifuye and Camera, who are both on lap number 19. Now, when they're running in the 140s or so, I would imagine, the high 140s, I would imagine the Batifuye and Camera, with, what is it, about 9 minutes to go on the clock before the pit stop window closes, I would say, wherever they are out on track, no more than 3 more laps than they need to be in.
And for those people watching, as that's a drive-through penalty coming in for car 56, that's Chiriello. Wait, Chiriello was actually in a position where he could have got a top 6. Oh, dearie me. And that is the leading Mercedes runner done pretty much from the race. You know, all of his hopes are pretty much gone with that drive-through penalty. It's not how you want your race to go. And Chiriello is going to be absolutely fuming with that one. He's got a couple of laps to serve it. So what I did want to say, and I'll quickly drop this in, for people wondering how Pfeffer pulled off the overcut, well, remember, Schoeniger pitted first. That means he had to put fuel into his car. Pfeffer would have been with a much lighter car, a lot less fuel in. That could be, you know, 20, 30 kilograms lighter than Schoeniger's car. And that's why he can then push and have a quicker car to pull off the overcut, as well as driving fantastically well.
Making it consistent as well. As now Camera pits from P2.
And Batifuye.
Yeah, Batifuye now. Yeah, well, look at Martin Stefanko, the Czech driver, has done a real good lengthy. Is trying for the massive overcut right now. So Camera's pitted, but Batifuye hasn't yet. But with 7.5 minutes, Batifuye with Bentley could afford to go on for a couple more laps. And I think Arthur Cameron might have been just at the fraction, well, at that edge. And with the difference between Camera and Pfeffer, Camera, depending on how long he's in for the pits, well, looks like Pfeffer and Schoeniger coming across the line. This is going to be rather interesting as we ride on board with Dennis Schoeniger for a little bit, going past the pit lane.
Camera into the pits as well now, or coming out of the pits.
Camera's leaving the pits, yep. So Camera served this 10-second stop and hold. Batifuye has got a lead of about 25 seconds ahead of Martin Stefanko. Now, those drivers have yet to pit. We've still got 6.5 minutes to go. There's camera filter out in front.
Oh
of
no,
who looks-
this is
Oh,
15th.
oh
Oh,
my
it's not
goodness!
good.
That 10-second penalty has cost Camera an opportunity in the top 6. Get through into the top 12. He's now got to wring the neck of that BMW M6 GT3 4.4 litre twin turbo M Power V8 car that actually had its engine and gearbox directly extrapolated from the road car. As Butterfouillet and Stefanko, what will be lap number 20, now into the pits with just under 5 minutes or so still to go. Stefanko, I have to give credit where credit is due. He has done an absolutely brilliant stint. And the biggest thing here is, Yusuf, is Stefanko will jump Butterfouillet in the pits.
You say that, but Butterfouillet has just left the pits before Stefanko. Stefanko did not have a 10-second penalty, so does that Aston Martin use up a little bit more fuel than the Bentley, which means that he had to stay in the pits for longer regardless, just so that he could get fuel into the car. Now, where does Butterfouillet come out? You can see the top 3 have just flown past him. I think he's going to come out ahead of Blyer here. This is going to be huge for Butterfouillet. He's going to serve his 10-second time penalty.
No, I don't think so. I think he's out of the top 6. I think he's out of the top 6 because if Keita gets past, there's Blyer. He's going to be up to full speed. There is... Now, that is Butterfouillet, I think, just coming out of the pits.
Yeah, Butterfouillet's P4. He's P4. He's out.
Yeah.
He's clear of Stefanko by... Well, he's clear of Blyer, pardon me, by just under a second. Butterfouillet made this didn't work, and Blyer's just made a mistake. Going through the chicane, Keita not quite close enough to be able to capitalize. And where has Stefanko fed out?
What on earth was that mistake from Dominic Blyer? That was going through Villeneuve, just literally straight line the second part of that chicane. We'll now put Luca Keita from Biela Racing. Look, there's Luca Keita from Biela Racing Team Euronics, just behind. The Jaws music, I think, and also,
yes.
You know what? The biggest thing that I'm seeing here, okay? We've got 2 Audis in this mix. Luca Keita, and you've also got Lars Kisser from Unicorns of Love. Lars Kisser is only 1.7 seconds behind this trio and has got Andrea Capoccia in another Audi not too far behind. There is a chance we could see some fireworks, and it's about who pulls the pin on the grenade first and throws it in whichever direction they feel like it. It might be in front if your name is Lars Kisser. It might be behind if it's Dominic Blyer.
So I've got some bad news for any Romain Grosjean Academy fans. Because Andrea Capoccia, remember him, the guy qualified in 5th and then picked up a penalty for track limits. Yeah, he then sped into the pit lane while serving his drive-through penalty. Now he's got a 30-second stop-go penalty. It's just getting worse and worse for the Italian.
The words "Mamma Mia" would be a right understatement right about now, I think. But that's, it's quite apt that we're at Imola, aren't we?
Yeah.
But Luca Keita is trying to close in on Dominic Blyer. The gap's now down to just under 0.3 of a second. Lars Kisser needs to put in the work rate now to close in on Luca Keita. But you look at it from both sides of the coin here, Yusuf. Lars Kisser could stay where he is and have an opportunity if Butterfouillet, Blyer and Keita have a moment. Now at Imola, we know that this is a very, very fast-paced circuit. Someone makes a mistake, someone will be there quicker than a rat up a drain pipe to capitalise.
The thing is, you say that, and ordinarily I would agree with you, but we have seen a few mistakes coming through, but all the driver then does is just completely cut through the chicane or whatever corner it is, and then only end up using a 10th or so. And I don't know if they're picking up any, track limit warnings for those excursions, let's say, because if they are, then they are definitely going to be in a very risky situation with, just how much they can push in the final 21 minutes of this race.
Yeah, it's always going to be the case of who's going to, as they say, to finish first, you must finish. That's the same, very much the same adage for all of our top 6 here tonight, with Luca Kita being the driver with the bullseye on the back of that Audi, number 11. But, you know, we're getting into the last 21 and a bit minutes here, Yusuf. Imola always brings a surprise, and I know that you have said to me that normally on one particular point you would agree with me, but the biggest thing that I'm going to look at from my perspective, we mentioned about tyres.
Yes. Yeah.
So there may be some drivers that felt, well, I'm going to fuel heavy, take the life out of this set, maybe spend a little bit more longer in the pits, but what can I claw back in lap time? Because they might have overfueled the car. So firstly, from my perspective, this is how I look at it. If on the first stint you go long, you go heavy on fuel, you take out life out of those tyres, you might not need to put fuel in for the pit stop, but you might have decided, hang on a second, I've got a third of the fuel that I had when I started this race because I pushed like crazy. Now I can put a fresh set of boots on it and go for broke. And I'm already seeing that happen. Martin Stefanko in the Czech Republic in the 98 from Williams Esports, currently P15, has just taken 3/10 out of Eamon Murphy. Now you look at the intervals between the likes of Stefanko, Murphy, Camera, Hartwell, Santoro, Pignon, as well. Pit stop window is now officially closed. If Stefanko has got a lot in that Aston Martin, who's not to say he could be an outside bet? Boothby is about 1.1 seconds behind Stefanko. Camera with that 10 seconds stop and hold penalty, that's put him out of the running. He could have been in the top 6, but there's a lot of drivers. I mean, this race has been sort of turned on its head a little bit here, isn't it?
Yeah, it has, and it's all because of those penalties that came in because drivers missed the driver's briefing. And you know, in the films that they have those, what's the term for it? You know, where they go to a space, you know, if they're having like trouble with an addiction or something like that, like a talking circle. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, when you go in for rehab, you have like sort of like the sharing
support circle. Yeah, sharing circle, support circle. So I can just see after this race there being a racing driver support circle, and they're just all in there saying, "Oh, you know, why did you miss out on the Nürburgring event? Oh, I didn't attend driver's briefing. Oh, I got track limits and I got a drive-through penalty, and then I sped
coming out of the pit.
Yeah,
Cirillo's
exactly.
race. Cirillo's race has gone from bad to worse because I already noticed Cirillo has had a drive-through penalty. The number 56 car had a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane, I bet.
Yeah.
After serving the drive-through, whoops. It's like that's like double drat and triple drat.
But you talked about drivers you were excited about, and you mentioned Stefanko. Now, sure, Stefanko's fast, but between himself and P6, you've got around 9 drivers, and overtaking at Imola, as we have already seen, is difficult. But you know who doesn't have many drivers in front of him? Ahmed Hosseini. He's got 4 seconds between himself and Kabocha, and the last lap round, that gap was 4.6 seconds. That means that a whole chunk of time has gone missing. It's been thrown into the abyss because Hosseini is closing in. And if he can close up to these two, if he can find a way past, maybe he can close in on it to Kita. I think it's very unlikely, but he has a chance.
Yeah. That's like grasping hold of, you know, hopes and dreams with the smallest amount of string ever made.
Okay, but yeah, hang on. I'm calling you on that one because you talked about Stefanko being an outside possibility. He's now in 15. Hosseini's in P9.
Who knows? Anything's possible. Anything
is
possible.
Right, I see how it is. Okay.
Yeah, anything is possible. Like, you know, we could pick up random drivers, you and me, and be talking all night long. We're not going to be here all night, thank goodness.
No. What do you mean? You don't want to be here all night commentating fantastic races? at
No,
Imola.
it is fantastic racing, but obviously people have got other things they want to get on with, like our viewers at home. We know that.
They don't need to watch, but we can keep on commentating, right?
I know, mate. I know. I mean, one of the good things that we've got going on at the moment is, along with Andrea Capoccia closing in.
He's
on
going for the
Lars
move on
Kiss-
Kisser. He went for the outside. He forced Kisser to take the defensive line, and he just gets him on the exit of the corner.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah, I mean, Capoccia's really coming under fire. Well, I mean, you know, Lars Kisser and Capoccia, that was a great move from Capoccia. And now, I mean, let's throw this curveball in there. 2.9 seconds separate Kita and Capoccia. And if Kita, well, hang on a second, that doesn't look like 2.9 seconds to me. But I'm going to have a look at this replay. Now, this was one of the prime overtaking opportunities we were talking about. Out of Vivazza, Capoccia gets an absolute whole shot and a half, right, into Tamburello. Kisser goes on the defensive. Capoccia looks to assert, and Kisser runs wide. That was all Capoccia needed. One mistake, and you can lose a position by the snap of the fingers. And Lars Kisser has just found that out. Meanwhile, Arthur Camera has been getting on with business at the minute. Number 62 from BMW SimRacing G2 Esports. Currently sitting P13 behind the young Dutch driver in the form of Chris Hartveld, 19 years of age, running in the number 19 Porsche. One of the interesting things, well, Hartveld is one of the GTWR RHG Academy drivers. Another investigation. Another incident under investigation. Yeah.
Kisser may have just done a Valtteri Bottas down into Rivazza and gone exceptionally wide, and now Amir Hosseini is 1.2 seconds behind the Audi.
Oh, that's a bit of a change. That's a bit of a significant change right there.
It's all starting to get rather tense, isn't it, in the final 15 minutes of the race?
And there's going to be a few uncomfortable pauses whenever something gets mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I did say about consistency, not making mistakes. That has just proved it in spades that you can make one mistake and it completely mucks up your race. But then for somebody else, it brings something, it brings somebody back into the mix. And you can't count out somebody like Amir Hosseini at all. We're going to have a look at what happened. Now, this is Camera and Hartveld. Now, this is going into Tamburello. And round to the outside goes Camera. Side by side. Oh, that was brave from the BMW, but he got the job done. That was very, very neatly done by Arthur Camera there. Very neatly done.
And he's finally got past Hartveld. He was stuck behind him for a fair while. And now he's got himself a bit of clearer. You know, you think about that 10-second penalty you got. You take away those 10 seconds. He'd be on the back of Kisser, maybe ahead of Kisser, actually, considering that mistake from the Audi. But he did pick up that 10 seconds. And he lost time as well, stuck behind Hartveld. And all for what? Having, you know, not having double-checked the rules and regs and seen that he had to attend driver's briefing. It's a sad way to go, right?
That's the way of Yusuf rubbing a little bit of salt into the wounds, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just saying how it is.
It's complete facts. Complete facts. So, it is what it is. I mean, there's a bit of a battle going on between Tiskovitz and Boothby, which is what is over 16th place at the moment. So, yeah, pretty good battle between them at the minute.
Remember, Tushkovitz started in P9, and then he had that incident through Piratello, the opening lap, and then I'm not sure what happened after that. I don't know if he was one of the unfortunate forgot to attend driver's briefing victims.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I think Tushkovitz was one of those drivers that did incur the wrath of race control. And it's not been easy by any stretch of the imagination, but when you look at, I mean, you look at it from that perspective. Well, race controller said you knew what the rules were, as Eamon Murphy has a bit of a moment. Oh, that was coming out of Variante Alta. And he's not had a good run in either this race or also the race at Spa-Francorchamps.
Going back to your point, I've seen in different events as a commentator, as a racer, as a steward as well, people complaining about the rules, saying, "Oh, well, this is a silly rule, isn't it? Blah blah blah." You know, after it's happened, well, you signed up for the event. You're the one who read the rules. You should have brought something up at the start, or I mean, the rules are the rules. Even if you don't like it, I've seen plenty of rules that I personally don't like, but those are the rules at the end of the day. Those are what you race by. And even if it's a rule that I particularly disagree with and don't like using, which, for example, one is, you know, taking the racing line and squeezing another driver off track. If those are the rules and I can use it to my advantage, then that's what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Rules are there for a reason. They're not meant to be broken or bent or circumvented in any way, shape, or form. So the drivers will have really had an opportunity to do that. But, you know, some of them will go like, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. They'll think, yeah, well, I've got enough pace in the car to do that. Well, you find out when you're trying to battle for the share of 10,000 euros, you're not going to have best run. I mean, Hosseini at the moment is still running in P9, and the gap between him and Lars Kisser has now gone down to under a second. So Amir Hosseini getting very, very close indeed. Patrick Pignon and Danilo Santoro rounding out the top 11. Amir Hosseini, the Iranian, who, funny enough, interestingly enough, I think he was born on Christmas Day, the 25th of December, was Amir Hosseini. That's quite weird when you actually look at birthdays of people, and yeah.
My grandmother was born on the 25th as well, actually.
Oh, small world, isn't it? Very, very small world indeed. But, you know, to be honest with you, Amir Hosseini has been getting on with things. Eamon Murphy and Chris Hartfeld battling over 13th like a pair of whirling dervishes. Just over 9 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. They're not giving core to those two, to be completely honest with you. But Hosseini's now dropped off the bubble a little bit. I mean, he's now just over a second and a quarter behind Lars Kisser at the moment. Capoccio is dropping hand over fist behind Luca Kita. And looking at this, all right, the most represented nation, if it finishes as it is right now, that will head to the Nürburgring for the ADAC SimRacing Expo professional trophy finale on September 18th. Right, get this. 5 of the 12 drivers will be represented by the nation that hosts the Sim Racing Expo. 5 drivers will be from Germany. You've got Luca Kita, Niklas Huben, Daniel Schoeninger, Tobias Pfeffer, and qualifying in the first event on August the 5th at Spa-Francorchamps, third place driver, Racing Line Motorsports, Marek Schins. So a very interesting statistic right there.
I mean, the Germans tend to be quite fast, right? You think for Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel, they've got a fair few championships between them, don't they?
Yeah, you've also got drivers that have won championships in other series, like, say, 2-time DTM champion Marco Wittmann, who is currently running in DTM once again, this time with Valkenhorst Motorsport, who also run in the NLS, what used to be known as the VLN. As Tushkovitz battling away with George Boothby for what is 16th on the road. There are battles up and down the order as Hosseini is dropping a bit more. I think the tyres are starting to go off on these cars a little bit here. Yeah. He's dropping by, judging by some of the gaps, as there has been one driver moving out of the way of the likes of Hosseini, Pignon, Santoro. Arthur Cameron's got past Chris Hartfeld for what is now 12th position on the road. A lot of drivers would have probably factored themselves in for the hunt here tonight, but it's been about those ones that have just calmly crossed the T's, dotted the I's, left no stone unturned, and it's the top 6 at the minute. I mean, Luca Kita actually came from, you look at it from this perspective. Batifuye was actually 6th. Luca Kita started in 10th place.
Yeah.
Dominic Bly, I mean, the main sort of changes here are that Pfeffer is ahead of Schoninger, Huben's still in 3rd, Batifuye started 6th, now is in 4th. Bly was 4th, now in 5th, and then Luca Kita started in 10th place. So we haven't seen someone come from outside the top 10 and really, really push like crazy. I mean, Ahmed Hosseini is trying to close in, as Danilo Santoro I've just seen trying to go up the inside of Padre Pignone from Switzerland, and that's for 10th on the road. But nevertheless, I mean, we're coming into the last 6 minutes of this race. I think it was a case of Pfeffer and Schoninger decided to run on a game plan, and it has worked to absolute perfection, as Huben has kept himself in the fight, and also going into the top 12, heading in to what we're going to see in, what is it, just over a month, in about 4 weeks' time, where 12 drivers, having qualified, will go for a share of a prize fund worth 10,000 euros. It's just absolutely ridiculous how competitive it has been. But once Pfeffer and Schoninger and Huben managed to get the jump on everybody else, it was about who was going to capitalise and get close to that envelope to have a chance. You might think, maybe I can't go for the victory, but I'm damn sure going to try for 2nd or 3rd overall. And if I can get into that top 12, that means I've got a 1 in 12 chance of either winning or getting on the podium at the very, very least.
And to go back to your point about Pfeffer and Schoninger, incredible stuff from Pfeffer. Coming into this race, the 2 Romain Grosjean Esport drivers, they knew they wanted to work together. They started on the front row together. They did exactly that, worked together for the entire first stint. And I'm sure it was discussed beforehand. Schoninger said, I'm starting first. It's my decision. I want to pit first. And Pfeffer would have said, okay, fine, I've got to pit 2nd. And he would have known his only opportunity, really, to get past his teammate would be in that one lap where he wasn't stuck behind him. And that's exactly what he did. He maximized his outlap, as Hosseini has a drive-through penalty. Oh, dearie me. That one will be for track limits, I'm fairly certain. And I was going to say, actually, if any, there's still a chance that we could be seeing some track limits coming in, maybe for the top 6, maybe bringing in the likes of Kissa and Kapocha into play, but sadly for them, it's the driver behind who picks up a drive-through. But never mind, it has actually been cleared away by race control.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, they want to make sure that things are done in the right way. I mean, we're getting close to the end of this race. What are we now? 3 minutes and 35 seconds still to go on this way. On this race itself. When you look at it, when they've been running consistently, probably in the 142s, maybe as such, I would have thought. And realistically, I think we're probably going to have a total of 36 laps completed with the way things are now.
3 minutes remaining, and I think. Well, that's going to be another 2 laps that will come through. When that clock hits 0, the next time the leaders cross the line will be the end of the race. So essentially, when they cross the line with less than 140 on the clock, that will be the final lap. And for Pfeffer, 3.3 seconds over Schoninger. And he's shown that now he's been given a bit of clear air. He can really pull away. Santoris all over the back of Pignone. He just can't find a way through, and that's just what we've been seeing here at Imola, especially when we compare it to Spa-Francorchamps from 2 weeks ago. Yes, there are overtaking opportunities, but it becomes so difficult to find a way through if you are, even close to being evenly matched.
Yeah, and I think it's about who wants it the most. Out of all the drivers here tonight, Tobias Pfeffer wanted to get one up on teammate Daniel Schoninger, and realistically, that's exactly what he's proved as Tobias. And you look at it from this perspective, the cars that they're running in, the track is going to be one of the biggest key denominators on the finale at the Nürburgring. And it will be about those that have extensive track knowledge and also have the right car underneath them. Now, James Baldwin, to come back to his interview, he said that, well, it wasn't the best performing vehicle, but he managed to capitalise when you had the incident between Richter and Boothby. And that really put Boothby and Richter both out of the running. And this is where it's going to pay dividends, as it looks like we're now going to I think we're now onto the final lap of the race itself with 1 minute and 13 on the clock still to go. And there are the two leaders as now I've spotted something rather nice here.
Okay.
Look at the gap between Scheninger and Pfeffer.
Oh.
It's not that far. It's not that far at all, is it?
Are they going to do a formation finish?
I'm wondering whether Scheninger's winding up to an attack here. It could happen. It could happen.
There's no way Pfeffer lost 2 seconds. Like, is it a mistake or...
Who knows?
Are they taking it easy to the end?
Trying to bring the cars home in one piece is probably the biggest thing that you would probably think here. Because now they're going through Variante Alta. Now, are they slowing it down so they don't have to do another lap? There's 24 seconds on the clock here.
They have to be careful though. Hubin's only 1.5 seconds behind.
Okay, right, down into Rivazza. I'm going to keep an eye on the timer now. 13 seconds to go. Oh, and there's a penalty coming for Eamon Murphy. This is going to be tight. I think we're going to get the checker this time around. Yeah, I think we are. Hang on a second. Right, it's gone to 0. That's it.
There it is, checkered flag. Pfeffer takes a win from Schoeniger and Hubin. Clever stuff from the Roman Grosjean eSport drivers.
Yeah, I thought that might be... Because as soon as he went, he's lost 2 seconds, I thought he slowed down. Like, yeah. they definitely not wanted... you know what they say? Keep your friends close and keep your enemies even closer.
I've got a question for you, Alex.
Go on.
Do you think Pfeffer had enough fuel to do another lap at full pace?
Oh, now that is a very, very pertinent question right there. We need to ask him. We need to find out because I would think it's either going to be one or two things: whether the tyres are dropped off to the point where it was not worth the risk, or was it a case of is it fuel conservation? But provisionally, you're 6 going through to the finale at the Nürburgring on the 18th of September. Tobias Pfeffer, our race winner of round 2 tonight. Daniel Schoeniger, Niklas Huben, Maxime Batifoulier, Dominic Blyer, and Bila Racing Team Euronics Luca Kita. That is provisional, pending anything that happens post-event. And realistically, yeah, I think we're in for a bit of a doozy for what's going to happen on September the 18th.
It should be absolutely thrilling when we do get to that stage, and I'm so excited for 1 month's time from now. Exactly 1 month's time, actually. It's on the 18th. Today is the 18th in the Nürburgring live as well. All the drivers there, the atmosphere, I'm sure it's going to be incredible. And hopefully nobody takes each other out, otherwise they've got, they can have a nice little stroll over to the other drivers' sim rig and maybe have a chat. Yeah. But I'm sure they will all get very clean, especially when you've got a field of 12 drivers. And I do like it, when you've got your finals with not too many drivers. For these kind of qualification events, you like having loads of drivers, there's lots of excitement. But for the finals, a few less drivers means that you can really focus on each individual battle and give it all the credit that it deserves without, back markers or anything affecting proceedings.
Yeah, very much the case. Some of the drivers on their slow down lappers, a lot of them coming through into the pits. So this is being treated like a professional side of things. This is, after all, the professional trophy here on the ADAC Road to SimRacing Expo. So we've got 2 winners. The first winner at Spa, James Baldwin. The second winner here tonight at Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari, Tobias Pfeffer from RHE Academy. Like I say, 5 out of the 12 drivers from Germany, few Italians, a Brit, a Czech, someone from the Czech Republic, Poland being represented as well, France. I think the finale is going to be absolutely brilliant, and we find out who wins €5,000 prize at the Nürburgring, a share of €10,000 up for grabs. And I think we're going to go straight into the interview. Yusuf, shall I hand this one over to you, my good friend, as I interview James at the first one?
You did. I'm more than happy. We have Tobias Pfeffer, our race winner from the second ADAC SimRacing Expo qualifier. Tobias, I mean, first of all, just congrats on the victory and that overcut you pulled off. What was that like for you?
I mean, I pushed as hard as possible. The last lap I had a bit of traffic, so I had to push like crazy. Yeah, behind my teammates, like it was really hard. The first lap going out of the pits, and yeah, pushed as hard as possible in front of him.
Now, I want to jump to that last lap of the race because myself and Alex, we said, "Oh, look at this! Schoninger is 1 second behind." I was thinking, "There's no way Tobias loses 2 seconds." And I know racing drivers; they don't like to slow down. So, how calculated, how communicated was that between yourself and Dennis to say, "Okay, we want to slow down so that we don't have to do one more lap"?
No. I mean, Dennis just told me that he doesn't have enough fuel, so we had to back off, like just to do not one more lap. Yeah, that's why we were a bit slow in the last 2 laps. Just because he would run out of fuel if we would have done one more lap.
How much was he sweating? Because Huben was only less than a second behind him at the end, so if you had to slow down by a couple more seconds, all of a sudden it could have been a bit of chaos going into the final few corners.
I mean, yeah, probably. I think it was actually calculated. I knew that we won't do one more lap, so was okay. I just left 1 second space so he doesn't overtake us too. So yeah.
Well, congrats on the win. Congrats to the team on 1-2. I'm guessing aspirations heading into the final is, to win the whole event and get another 1-2 for the team.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's see. I mean, I don't know. Like we have. I mean, I really don't know. Let's see how fast the other guys are. And
well, Tobias, thank you very much for joining myself, and Alex, thank you very much for answering my questions as well. And I think myself, Alex, and everyone watching at home looks forward to seeing you in action at the Nürburgring.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Well, Alex, wonderful to hear from our race winner, Tobias Pfeffer, and charming gentleman as well. And I guess we were kind of right with our assumption that maybe one of them was a little low in the fuel department. I think Alex might have forgotten to unmute.
Yes, I did.
Yes, he's back.
Yes, I did. Look, it's been a long week, and it hasn't even gotten started yet. You see, a little bit of a triumph there for Yusuf, ladies and gentlemen. You see,
a rare win.
I'm not going to go into what age bracket I sit in, but yeah, I've definitely had what's called a senior moment with my buttons. Unfortunately, there we go. Yeah, I think it's quite good that when Tobias said that, Dennis said, I haven't got enough fuel. They measured it perfectly. They measured it to absolute pinpoint Teutonic precision. And Niklas Huben I think Niklas Huben had an idea it might have been the case. And he thought, well, you know what? I'm not going to spoil their 1-2 parade. I'm going to show what I'm capable of at the Nürburgring finale. And to be completely honest with you, it was a very, very calm, composed drive from Niklas Huben as well. Luca Kita must be counting his lucky stars with everything that happened. The 10 drivers that got hit with a 10-second stop and hold. That affected the likes of Arthur Camera George Boothby, Luke Whitehead, amongst others, that could have been in the mix for this top 6. But they've now got to say, well, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it now. It's now past tense. I've got to wait until the next time. And now there are 12 drivers that are heading to the Nürburgring on the 18th in exactly a month's time. And one of them will walk away from the Eifel region with a cool €5,000. I mean, who can't not get excited about that?
Absolutely. And just one final thing that I do want to bring up, because I think it's such an interesting topic as well, before we do wrap up the show. The strategy on the Romain Grosjean eSport drivers. If it wasn't Pfeffer that was leading the race, if Huben was leading the race, Schoeniger runs out of fuel and doesn't qualify. It's such a risky strategy. It's such a risky call to make, to get that close to the fuel margin in a qualifying race when you guys were 1-2. And I don't want to say, is this, a sign of things to come? But I don't know. It just feels like a foreshadow of some sort.
I think in some respects there will be a learning phase through this. James Baldwin would have learned something. Jardier. Also, Tobias and Pfeffer and Schoeniger. They will have learned something from this. And sometimes it pays to get your mistakes out of the way now.
Absolutely.
Because if you drop a clanger like Schoeniger could have done tonight, and that would have brought in somebody else, maybe Andrea Capoccia could have had that little bit of a silver lining behind that cloud. But it wasn't to be. Schoeniger and Pfeffer must have been on chatter to each other, saying, Dennis will probably have been going, right, Tobias, I need to fuel save. The lift and coast. We need to keep Huben at bay. And Schoeniger would have been the wingman on that effort. And Tobias would have controlled the pace, would have backed Dennis back into Niklas Huben. And as a result, Huben would have seen it coming and gone, right. And as I said earlier, Huben will be looking to strike at the Nürburgring. But when you have 12 drivers going for the same amount of prize money, it's going to be an all-out dogfight at the Nürburgring. And that is what this is built to. This is like the initial phase of it. When we get to the Nürburgring in a month's time, there is going to be nowhere for these drivers to hide. They will be battling each other side by side in sim rigs.
Yeah. Side by side in the sim rigs as well.
And you know what else comes with this? Not only comes pressure, but also the mental games go up another level. Because when you're battling with them side by side, and you can see them in your field of vision, you're going to see how they're looking. You're going to be seeing whether they're perspiring, what their body language, what their driving style, their inputs, their throttle, brakes, steering. Everything on that is going to be on display. And it's going to be about the person that musters all the courage, all the bravado, and also is calm and composed will be the winner for 2021. That much I guarantee you, sir.
Something else you can almost guarantee is if Schoeniger and Pfeffer are battling for the win, come that final round on the last couple of laps, you can be guaranteed that Schoeniger will not remember Pfeffer slowing down in the final lap at Imola. And I mean, it's what we want to see, though. We want to see every single driver pushing to the absolute max. And we've had a fantastic race here at Imola. We've seen some interesting stuff that has occurred due to penalties, due to differing strategies as well. But with that, that is all that we do have a time for. Thank you guys very, very much for tuning in. If you want more ACC action before the final event at the Nürburgring, we do have the community event, the second qualification event for the community championship. That will be on the 27th of August. That will be at Zandvoort. But the main event itself, well, that one is coming on the 18th of September. Put it in your diaries. Maybe even grab yourself a plane ticket and come on over to the ADAC SimRacing Expo itself. I've been Spencer Hell. I've been joined by Alex Goldschmidt. And, well, stay tuned for more ACC in the upcoming weeks.